Good morning from Arizona. I'm back with another episode. We kind of left off talking about morality. So today, what we're going to be talking about is who has moral obligations. This is something a lot of people think about. Do I have some kind of moral obligation to do something? Do I have some kind of moral obligation to my neighbor? Does moral obligation give me purpose? Does it give me a place in society? All those kind of questions of, how does that work really in practice, and how does that work in reality? Well, if it is the case that practically that you do not have any moral obligations, which I would say that you don't have any moral obligations if God doesn't exist. In that case, if you do not have any kind of moral obligations, you don't have a moral obligation as a man to defend a woman whom is being assaulted. You don't have a moral obligation to defend or to protect the life of the weak. You don't have a moral obligation to defend or protect anybody unless you see fit or unless it benefits you. There are a lot of arguments that we could come up with as to why it's better for society if we act it as if we do have some kind of moral obligation to our neighbors, and we act some different way towards our neighbor insofar as the way we help them. Maybe we decide not to kill our neighbor because of this. It's beneficial to the group setting that I don't kill my neighbor, that I don't sexually assault my neighbor, things like that. So we could act as if we do have some kind of moral obligation, but that wouldn't change the fact that objective morality doesn't exist. Therefore, you have no moral kind of obligations past what you feel is a moral obligation. Now, is there some kind of way past what you feel to have some kind of moral obligation? Well, yes. Now, society does have a means of practically binding you to some kind of social contract that practically is going to force you to act in a certain way. It's going to force you to behave in a certain way, and they're going to say that's for the benefit of the good, that's for the benefit of the majority. So, this might look something like the laws that you see. This might look something like the Constitution that you see, and perhaps some of the amendments in the Constitution. Some people might think of those amendments as kind of a social contract. You get free speech, so as long as you're sworn and sworn, naturally born, or naturalized American, you get these certain rights. But you also have to behave within the confines of these laws, insofar as our laws about rape, murder, incest, all that kind of stuff. You have to agree and abide by those laws as a part of you being a part of the society, and this is what I would call the social contract. And the social contract obviously isn't something that we all sign per se. We're not all like, oh yeah, yep. No, it's something that's forced on you. It's forced on you by a governing body, or it's going to be forced on you by a ruling body, whatever words you want to use to describe it. Either way, it's typically going to be forced on you if you live in any kind of civilized, any kind of organized society. That's just the way that it's going to be. Now, if society forces this social contract on you, society is going to tell you that you have some kind of moral obligation. Maybe they call it a contractual obligation, constitutional obligation, patriotic obligation. It doesn't really matter what you want to call it, but there is a standard and there is an expectation that society is going to have for you, and now you got to figure out how you're going to uphold it. If you're going to push against it, in which case, there's law enforcement. That's how they enforce that social contract is law enforcement. There's also military, and that's how that gets more complicated. That goes into foreign affairs, but right now, for the moment, let's just stick domestically. So there are two ways then we've discovered to have moral obligations. One way is having a moral obligation because of objective morality. The other way is having a moral obligation because of a societal contract that you've somewhat agreed to, or a society that you lived in. Therefore, you have to abide by the social contract, and that is how moral obligations come about. Now, some people are going to say, "I'm a little bit lost here. What's the purpose in life? What's really the meaning? If you know if there is no objective morality, my neighbor doesn't owe me anything. My neighbor perhaps won't care about me. My neighbor doesn't have my interest at heart. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." I don't know, something like that concept. Maybe you're kind of like, my neighbor wouldn't really care. That seems a little bit problematic to me. That my neighbor wouldn't really care. So how exactly am I going to deal? How am I going to deal with this? Doesn't that kind of make me lose a sense of safety, a sense of purpose, a sense of unity within a community or within a country? And some would argue, yes, it does. Not having any kind of moral obligations can unfortunately free people to do as they wish, or to do as they reason without kind of any objective purpose towards whatever their ends might be. So that's something to consider as far as that goes. Now let's go back to this social contract, these social rules, and these expectations that society is going to have for you. We develop these things for a reason, as some would argue, and I think it's a good argument that we develop these for good reasons, perhaps to keep us safe, perhaps to help us provide food, security for the future, security for ourselves, perhaps to even provide us more freedoms by binding you to some kind of social contract. It might be that you allow people and individuals to have a certain level of freedom that they weren't able to previously have. So think back prehistorically. Evolution is the best theory there is to explain how we came to be. So we're going to go with the evolution. We're going to presume that the theories of evolution is true, and we're going to say that we came from apes. We were at one point less intelligent. We developed this intelligence, consciousness, and so on to be able to participate with each other in this contractual kind of way. And we were able to establish laws, we were able to establish standards, rules, which allowed us to progress as a society and have an advantage over other animal groups that might have been bigger, perhaps stronger than we were. So that's something that we did as a society, and we were able to do that because there is no other animal on this planet like a human. No other animal possesses the capabilities that we have. No other animal has built what we have built, has innovated the way we have innovated. We stand above and apart from all other animals on this earth, and I stand by that statement. That's the truth right there. Now think about it for a moment. What is the best means to develop this kind of social contract, this kind of social cohesion that we needed for our survival? What was the best means? Was the best means religion, or was the best means, reason, thought, and logic, or are those two things that we can really combine? What do we attribute the success of the West to? Do we attribute it to religions, or do we attribute it to reason and logic, or surely both combined? And perhaps we ought to attribute it to both. What do you guys think about that? I want to hear your thoughts before I get into that one. But nevertheless, that is really something we're thinking about. A lot of people these days, they have huge disagreements about really what the West has, how the West has gotten to where it is. What's really brought it here? What's brought civilization to what we think is perhaps the peak of human evolution, the peak of human intelligence, and the peak of human innovation to this date. What has brought us so far here? Is it the religious thoughts? Is it the reason? Is it the logic? Okay, now as far as reason and logic goes, reason and logic in the absence of objective morality and in the absence of a social contract practically allows you to just reason as it benefits yourself. So, what I mean by this is, let's say me and 10 people, we live on this kind of distant mountaintop amongst the giraffes, like the giraffes in the background. Let's say we live up on this mountaintop, 10 of us, none of us necessarily associate with each other that much, but we just all cohabitate, and we all live in that same area. There is no ruling, there is no governing body, there aren't a solid group who've combined together to, tell you what to do or to force their rules and standards upon you. So you just kind of establish your own, you just kind of do your own thing. Logically or reasoning, you look over at your neighbor. Your neighbor has just an overflow of barley, I don't know, wheat, so many berries, and has this elk hanging up. I mean, all the resources that you need. Out of the 10 people on the mountain, they have the most resources, and just you on your own. You're like, okay, well, you're not doing as well. It's been an incredibly hard time for you. You haven't harvested the way you have. Maybe you're lazy. I don't know. Maybe you're not. Maybe you just, didn't work as hard as other people. I don't really know. Let's just leave that up to the, imagination as far as that goes. But nevertheless, let's say that is the case, that for whatever reason you just don't have as much. You have a family to take care of. You have what you might consider responsibilities. That's what you've reasoned. So now you've reasoned that your neighbor over there has something that you need, and you're simply going to go demand it. You go demand it. Your neighbor says no. Now, your neighbor, what's he going to do? What's your neighbor going to do? Well, back in that day, people had more common sense than today. He understood that there was no ruling, there was no governing body. No one was coming to protect him if he screamed. Maybe the other neighbors might care if it worked out logically for their benefit. But at the same time, maybe they'd join me and we'd all agree to screw over this neighbor. So the neighbor who I demand the resources from, he goes and he grabs his weapon, and he goes, he runs and grabs his weapon. He comes back to the door and he threatens me. If you ever come back, you demand my stuff, I'll kill you, which is pretty reasonable up on this mountaintop. It's kind of kill or be killed. That's the way it goes. Okay, so I leave. I apologize. I go grab my own weapon. And in this day, the weapon is going to be sword and bows. I go grab my sword. He has his sword. I come back over and I say, and now that I'm armed, I was just kissing his ass last time. I didn't really mean anything that I just said. I challenge him. I say, I'm going to take your stuff. So there's 2 of us neighbors, right? That leaves 8 more neighbors. Let's say another 3 neighbors are watching. So we have 5 total neighbors that are somewhat involved in this. 3 bystanders and 2 who are actively fighting, and then that means you have another 5 set of neighbors somewhere else doing their own thing. They're probably inside their home, probably out hunting. They just haven't noticed any of this ruckus. But those 3 bystanding neighbors, to them, it's they don't see any reason to protect the other neighbor. Perhaps to them, it isn't really logical to protect the other neighbor, so they're just not really concerned about it. They're not going to do anything about it. Now, there's good arguments for why it might be in the best interest of those other 3 neighbors to actually do something about it. What if he has the most resources next week, and therefore I go to his home next week and I demand, and I also win the duel, and I take his resources, kill his family, and such and such and such. How is that eventually going to benefit us if there's only one of us up there because we've all killed each other? And now we're gonna have to withstand the seasons, the droughts, all by ourselves. It turns out it might be a little bit better to have some people to work with. But these aren't things that you've quite come to agree on because you just cohabitate and you don't really associate with each other. You don't really have rules that you enforce on each other. You just what's that saying? YOLO. You only live once, right? So you're just living once, and you really will live once. You're probably gonna die up on the mountain. So so I demand for my neighbor. We duel. We fight. I kill him. I go inside. I don't really want to kill his wife and children. I don't want his wife either. So I tell her to run with her kids, out into the lands. Well, she comes at me with a sword as well. She tries to kill me because I kill her husband. I ended up having to kill her too, unfortunately. And then her kids. Well, I can't really adopt them. They're going to hate me for life. They might kill my children because of what I've done. Oh, look, Lisa over there, the other little neighbor, she decided to take the children, so she did. And now these children have some kind of home, some kind of place to stay. It all worked out. I got my resources. And, who cares, right? I had no kind of moral obligation whatsoever. I had no social obligation, no social rules, no social standard. Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot. This might come back to bite me, but who really cares? So I hope you've got something from this story. This story is exactly the reason as to why we establish social rules, hierarchies, governing bodies. It's why we've established a constitution. We consider ourselves at the peak of civilization because we've done what no other humans have done. We have nations, nation states. We have governing bodies, whatever you call them, parliaments. You can call it parliaments. You can call them legislatures, kings, whatever you want to call them. We now have it's common in almost every country except for some really unsuccessful African nations or something like that. But it's really successful in almost every country to see some kind of social cohesion, some kind of social contract that you're under, some kind of social standards. So, of course, those kind of murders and demands are still going to happen, but you're going to have an enforcement arm. That enforcement arm is that person that you call. That guy, he could have called somebody for assistance. There was no point. He understood it was kill or be killed. But in this society, we're able to call someone for help. We're able to think that our neighbor has some kind of social obligation to assist us, that he knows that it's beneficial that he assists us because it's going to be beneficial if something were to happen to him, that he would also get assistance. So that's really the way that we should think about the situation. We left off, we're going to talk about in the next series, we're going to talk about at what age do you have a moral obligation, at what social standing do you have an obligation, who has the moral obligation, is it the younger, is it the older, is it the weaker, is it the stronger, all that kind of stuff we're going to talk about. And that's going to be a super fun one because that's going to really set us up for when we're talking about foreign moral obligations, because at the end of this series we hit Israel and Palestine, and then that's when we're going to see uh, where you guys stand, what you guys think about my thoughts, and that's where we're going to actually need to converse.